There's a funny little thing. I'll let you in on a little secret, but yeah, I mean, anytime you're training with someone every day and then you see them every day, there's always going to be like, living with someone and then training with someone. Those are two very different things, right?
What's up, Jiu-Jitsu fans? I am being joined by Damien Anderson, the #8 ranked Jiu-Jitsu practitioner at 145 and 155. He has some big news, from signing with Iridium to wanting to go into MMA, but the most upcoming and recent news is that he'll be competing at CJJ December 18th. So when did you get this call, and was it an automatic yes from you that you wanted to compete at Combat Jiu-Jitsu?
I got the call maybe two to 3 months ago, and yeah, it was a team tournament. So as soon as I got the call, I mean, I definitely was in. I really enjoyed the last tournament that I was in, and this time, since it's a team tournament, I actually lost to my teammate Ethan Prelinston, but now it's a team tournament where 5 of us get to go out there. So it's like, all right, with me, Ethan on the team, I felt really confident, and then we just have obviously a lot of good connects, so we were in right away.
Yeah, so I noticed some teams from Team Alpha Male. I thought that they were gonna do a team with Nate Diaz.
5 teams: 10 Planet, Gracie Baja, Team Alpha Male, N-Tram, and Nate Diaz is gonna have a team too. Oh, Combat Jiu-Jitsu.
But I'm not sure if they are still with a team already. And then there's Combat Jiu-Jitsu Mexico. So who's on the B team's team?
We actually, we were really trying to come in with a stacked team. I mean, granted, our team is still really stacked. The biggest hitters are, me, Ethan, and Kieran Kachuk, who are all top 10 ranked grapplers. But we really me and Ethan tried to really go hard. We asked Aljamain Sterling. He was traveling. We tried to get Josh Cisneros. Josh Cisneros is traveling. We tried to get Diego Pato. Diego just signed with one. I don't even know if I'm able to say that, but he just signed with another organization, so couldn't do it. Gabe Souza, we asked. Gabe was having issues. Not visa issues, but he can't leave the country right now because his visa's in process. We asked Ruan Alvarenga. So we were really trying to get heavy hitters. But we still got Kieran. Kieran's very, very talented, a sick grappler. I think he might be ranked number 3rd actually at 155 or something. So wow. We got Kieran, and then we have Fabian, who's one of Matt Serra brown belt, or Jason Rao brown belt. Very, very talented as well. I've had a tough match with him. I've faced him, I think, twice, and, it's always been a scrap with him. So it was a no-brainer with him. And we actually tried to get Nick Ronan. Nick Ronan competed in the 155 Combat Jiu-Jitsu prior, but I think he might have gotten an injury, so he had to pull out. So then we have actually a 16-year-old from our team, Dorian, who's going to be in.
A 16-year-old?
We have a 16-year-old. Yeah.
Wow.
He's a special case, though. He's still only a blue belt, but I think he might be ranked 43rd in the country for wrestling for his age. So super, super good, or in high school, whatever, very, very good wrestler. Comes in, gives all of us tough rounds. So then it was all right, we'll add him to the mix too, especially, granted, he has us to back him up as well. So it's a good showing for him.
That's awesome. And you and Ethan have experience in the CJJ format. You got a nasty knockout the last time you were there. So is that something you guys are practicing on the jiu-jitsu mats now, or do you kind of save it for fight day?
Basically, our philosophy is that we won't give up positions just to go for slaps. Granted, slaps definitely do make the position, getting to different positions, a bit easier, but they're just not that effective unless you're in a dominant pinning position. So basically what we're doing is we're trying to figure out where can I pin my opponent while giving myself a free limb, and then we use those positions to really do a lot of damage. It becomes more of a scramble to get to these dominant positions, and then from there, that's when we'll start doing the majority of our damage. When we're playing on bottom, obviously the whole idea is, well, how can I heist or sweep to avoid damage, right? We don't really want to be playing a bottom game. So our philosophy or our training strategies definitely change as we get closer and closer to the match.
Yeah, very strategic, very tactical. It seems almost like you have a coaching mindset as well. I noticed from your Instagram that you're a co-owner of In BJJ. I was curious, were you more involved with them before moving to Puerto Rico and now Austin, Texas? Or has it always been just something that you kind of have your name with and you can visit when you can?
Well, definitely. I mean, I was initially coaching every class while training full time when I was in Jersey. Granted, I had a weird starting to the gym. I think it's funny because, it's like, I think everything happens for a reason, but I initially started the gym and then COVID had shut us down within like 2 weeks. So I started the gym inside a Muay Thai gym, or a program inside the Muay Thai gym. COVID shut us down. I still went against the grain, and to be honest, I just ended up just having underground classes,
Nice,
just because
yeah.
there's so many people that still wanted to train. And then Garry Tonon's gym, actually, who I was managing as well at the time. His gym had just not closed, but the landlord went out of business, so he had to leave his spot. So then he didn't want to sign a lease to during this pandemic. He's like, I don't know when we're going to be able to open up legally. So then all of his students started training at my gym. And I was just training, as if I was operating as if nothing ever happened. Then he was able to open up the gym, or he found a spot once the pandemic cleared up. And then I actually, so then I opened up again, like just to the public, because I wasn't really advertising. And then by that time we had already decided to move to Puerto Rico. So then I was like, shit, I don't know what to do. Do I close down the gym or do I get a business partner? So then I actually have a business partner, Andrew Vidal, who's like an amazing coach, amazing friend of mine. So the division of labor now is that he's the head instructor and I manage the back end work. So I'm managing, the accounts, dealing with the landlords, or dealing with insurance, or dealing with, we have to find a new location now. So, I'm trying to do the majority of the grunt work for him so he doesn't have to worry about it.
When did you start? I thought I noticed you went to Rutgers College. Is that your first time really getting into the jiu-jitsu world?
I didn't do any jiu-jitsu prior to that, actually. I was just wrestling around with one of my friends my freshman year of college, and he was like, oh man, I joined this jiu-jitsu club. You should come check it out. And I always thought that was cool. I always thought UFC was cool, so I definitely wanted to experience it. So I went there and then, just got like my ass whooped by people that I would think that I'd be able to beat in a fight. Right. And then I just pretty much never looked back. Garry Tonon was the head coach of that club at the time. And then I ended up joining his gym and then started training pretty much every day at that gym for maybe 6 months to a year. And then eventually, I got asked to go if I wanted to try to like really pursue this thing. And if so, then I had to go to John Danaher up in Manhattan in the city. So then, I was traveling to the city every day. And then, I think I was doing it for about 2 years. And then I decided to take a year off of college to try to pursue this fully. And then just really never looked back, never went back to college, just, went all in. And that's actually why I named my gym All In, was because I felt like that's exactly what happened with my jiu-jitsu journey, right? Is I eventually, I think I asked Gary or Gordon, I was like, how do I progress faster? Like, and they were basically like, you're not going to be able to reach us ever because you're not training as much as we are. It's like, you have to train as much as we are, and you're not, because, you still have classes. I was still working on the weekends. So then that's how I I became the manager of Gary's gym, so I could train on the weekends, and then eventually dropped out of college so I can train full time without having to worry about these other things. I was kind of getting spread too thin. But yeah, and then that's actually why I named my gym All In. And actually there's a funny little thing. I'll let you in on a little secret. You might be talking to the first owner of a B team Central Jersey. We don't know yet. We're in discussions. That would be I think that would be a very smart business move if we rebranded. So we're in discussions about that. So you might be talking to the first B team Central Jersey owner.
That's awesome. And it's super awesome, the inspiration for the name of your gym, All in Jiu-Jitsu. I know you're belted under Danaher up until your purple belt. And since you've had kind of movements in where your team is now, if you're ever belted again, who would you be belted under?
Well, so actually, I was never belted under John. I was training with John every day, but technically, I was definitely belted under Garry Tonon. So I was Garry Tonon purple belt, leading up until obviously the split, and then I'm now a brown belt under Nicky Ryan.
Very cool. And I listened to the Simple Man podcast. I've gotten to hear some of the stories of the mansion in Puerto Rico, but I thought I noticed that you said you weren't staying in the mansion yourself. So what was your living situation while in Puerto Rico?
So, I mean, none of us, so what had actually happened was I lived in an apartment in Puerto Rico with, one of the other teammates, Nick Ortiz at the time. And then we were in this place. Actually, I didn't even have to pay for it. Mo helped us out with accommodation. So, super, I got very lucky, very, very lucky. So I lived in Puerto Rico. It was in the same development. Me, Nick Ortiz, Gary, Nicky Rod, Oliver Taza, Big Dan, we were all in the same apartment development. And then at the time, Ethan, Gordon, and Nikki lived together. Then they ended up having some like disputes or whatever, so they ended up moving out and trying to find their own space, but they couldn't really find, or they found one location, one place where when they moved out. Nikki and Ethan wanted to move out, and that spot ended up like only lasting maybe a month or two, and then they needed another place to stay. So staying at so like it was super weird. So they had rented out this place, right? They signed a lease or something like that, but then the owner had decided to like sell the unit or something, or sell the house that they rented.
Oh my gosh.
So they kind of got screwed. I don't know, things were really weird in Puerto Rico. So then Nikki and Ethan basically just lived at Mo's for about like 2 months. Or 3 months maybe, and it was in this like massive mansion. And then, I mean, we were always there all the time, just hanging out. But they actually, like, Ethan got to live there.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a crazy story, and that's interesting that it was Gordon, Ethan, and Nikki living together, because I feel like no matter who you're living with, there'll always be like some type of little annoyances or whatever if you're training and living with them every day.
Yeah,
so your living situation was more Garry Tonon, Oliver Taza, and I guess people, like, how did the living situations get sorted?
Oh, well, so we were in the same apartment complex, right? So there's like, maybe 7 different buildings in this big complex. And, me and Nick Ortiz were actually in our own unit, our own apartment. Gary had his own apartment. Nicky Rod had his own apartment. And then Big Dan, Taza lived together. But yeah, I mean, anytime you're training with someone every day and then you see them every day, there's always going to be like, living with someone and then training with someone. Those are 2 very different things, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just natural, right? I mean, I kind of got lucky because Nick Ortiz, one of our buddies now at B Team, he pretty much just stays in his room and plays video games. So it was very difficult for me to get mad at Nick ever. So it worked out pretty well with my living situation.
That's nice. Yeah, as long as everyone keeps it clean, someone's playing video games, someone's out doing shit. That's nice how it works out. So when the whole split happened, I thought I noticed you were training at WNO and you were still with Danaher. So correct me if I'm getting some of the timeline wrong. And then it was after that you decided to go to B Team. Is that the correct timeline? So
yeah, actually, that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Nice. Was it, as someone that does jiu-jitsu and knows how much of like being happy of where your gym location is and the energy, at what point did you know that you just wanted to go to B Team? And was it the WNO loss that triggered it, or was it kind of a building feeling that you felt was going to happen eventually?
Well, actually, so the timeline is slightly skewed. So I had actually left the team the day before the WNO match, and I actually won. I won that match. so what had happened was I had lost the WNO championship. And I was with New Wave. I forget if the team was a team split. I don't know if I guess the team had to have split. Yeah. The team was already split during WNO championship. Still with New Wave. Granted, I didn't want to leave. So to be honest, I was closest with Nikki, Ethan, Nicky Rod. Those guys were like my close friends that I would hang out with, almost every day. But I didn't want to leave because Garry had a title fight coming up for MMA. He had like the biggest fight of his career. So I didn't want to leave. And so, I decided that, I would stay and stick it through. And then I have MMA aspirations. So I didn't want to leave. At the time, John was my only MMA coach. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. So I didn't want to leave my coach during the biggest fight of his career. So I decided to stay. And then, as time went on without my friends there, or my closest friends there, I felt it became more of like a job. So the reason, I stopped jiu-jitsu, right? Or I stopped going to school and pursuing jiu-jitsu basically because I had that love for the sport, right? I really loved it. I was like, well, why would I spend 8 hours a day doing a job just for money when I could try to make this my job, right? Because I love it so much and I love doing it every day. And I felt as time went on, it's like I wasn't happy with the environment or the dynamic or the culture, we'll say. I kind of lost that love for the sport. It became more of a mundane job where it's like, all right, I have to go here even if I don't feel as happy going there. And then eventually I just decided that it was best for me to go be in a place where I believe the environment's a bit healthier for me.
Nice. Yeah, so I guess it was just finding an environment that's more conducive for you, and there wasn't any actual significant event that triggered you to leave.
No. It's really just like everybody's on their own journey. Everybody. There wasn't like I wouldn't say like a single event. It was like, there were some personality clashes. Definitely I felt the guys at B team who are my closest friends, probably I felt that they had my best interest at heart. I felt like they wouldn't really steer me wrong. The guys that, I feel, are very good people and stuff like that. So, I just decided that it'd be best for me to be in an environment like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it seems like your closest friends, you like to do a lot of things off the mats with. You have the Simple Man podcast, which is super hilarious. Why is it specifically Ethan and Nikki? Did anyone else want to get in on it? Or was it just like, you guys are like the three musketeers?
Yeah, Nicky Rod, before the Simple Man podcast, he had, I think it's called Black Belt Slayer podcast or something like that, or Nicky Rod podcast. He had a podcast before back when we were in New Jersey. But it's like me, Ethan, and Nicky Rod are usually the ones that are always kind of like just bullshitting and talking and joking around, just making jokes pretty much. Specifically, me and Ethan definitely have a dynamic where we're like making each other crack up and shit. And then Nicky Rod is just so funny to be around, So it's like, it was definitely something that we felt like we wanted to do ourselves, and we're definitely the most vocal out of the group. It's like Nicky doesn't really like to talk in front of the camera. Craig does, but Craig, it'd be hard to really get Craig to want to commit to something weekly. So it just made sense that like all three of us were on board right away.
Yeah, and you guys have been talking about some exciting things. I know Nicky Rod is looking into WWE, but he's going to negotiate his deals in that sense. And you are also very business minded and you want to go into the MMA world. But do you have any goals in jiu-jitsu that you want to accomplish first before going MMA? Or was your signing with Iridium a sign that you might be taking on some MMA fights already?
Well, I'm definitely going to be taking MMA fights on. So far, I believe I'm going to be fighting January 29th, actually. It's not fully confirmed yet, but I believe that's what the date looks like. Well, so the way I kind of think about it is, is I can do both up to a certain extent. So basically, the goal is, get very good at jiu-jitsu this entire, next probably 2 years. Do my best to win ADCC. That's definitely the goal, is ADCC. And then after ADCC is worry about professional MMA, and pretty much just retire from jiu-jitsu. But the thing that a lot of people like mess up with, I think, is that they decided that they want to fight. They win, a few MMA fights at the, local pro level. They get the call to the UFC, and then, they're in this organization getting the shit beat out of them. Maybe they win a couple, maybe they lose a couple. But it's like the real development should happen outside of the UFC. So my signing with Iridium actually doesn't mean that, I'm going directly to the UFC. It's like I still have a lot of development that I want to do. Granted, like my jiu-jitsu, my grappling might be there, but it's like I still need a good amount of time with my striking. So basically, I signed with Iridium, and the goal is to develop me as a complete fighter outside of the UFC. Once I look at the UFC, top 10, top 5 guys, and say like I'm able to compete with them, then it's about, all right, I'll start. I'll enter the UFC, and then pretty much just climb the ranks through. With my development already being outside of the organization.
That's very exciting. High aspirations with the UFC for sure. But I know at one point there was a clip that was going kind of viral. And it was one championship looking for you. You were a wanted man for photo bombing all of their fighter walkouts. So why were you at one championship? Was like it just for fun, or were you also in Asia for some type of like business thing?
Well, no, I was there because Garry was fighting. I'm also Filipino, so visit some family too. But Garry was fighting at the time. I think he was fighting. Who the hell was he fighting? I forget, some Indian guy. I forget his name, to be honest. But yeah, he was fighting in the Philippines. So then I was just there, and then yeah. No, that was just it. I was just a fan and just being stupid. And then they ended up making the clip out. I honestly forgot that I did that. I didn't even realize that was years ago. That might have been like 4 years ago. And then maybe like last year they came out with that clip. I totally forgot about it.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. Also, I didn't know you were Filipino. I had a feeling that you might have been like some type of Asian, but I was like, awesome. I've never been to Manila or anywhere in the Philippines. Was it a fun trip?
Yeah, super fun. Yeah, I'm Filipino and Jamaican. I'm not very close with my Filipino side, so it was really cool to connect with all of them. I was there. So in 2019, I actually visited the Philippines with my family, right? So I got to meet all of them. And then just a few months after that, Garry was fighting in the Philippines. I was like, oh, I'll go to the Philippines too, and just go back and hang out with all my cousins that I just met. So it was super cool to go back.
Nice. And so are you and Garry still really close, or do you guys not get to talk as much now that you're not training together every day?
It wasn't 12:30 last week. Yes, it was. I'm very close to punching in the mouth. I'll hurt you. I really will. Training happened at 12:30 last week. It's supposed to happen at 12:30 today. John is running late. What do you want me to say? I'm gonna kill him.
We're definitely not close. Definitely ended up on some bad terms. But we're both happy in our own I mean, it's like, it's do I think that the relationship could ever be what it was? I don't think so, but I mean, I think we can be cordial. It's like it's like a weird thing, it's like he's happier there, I'm happier here. I don't think there's even like a real reason for us to ever become like, very close friends again. But, I think there's a chance that in the future down the line, we could be cordial and, look past what happened.
Yeah, I mean, you guys all live in Austin, Texas, so I've been to Austin once. I'm not sure it's so big that like you don't run into each other at all. But whatever happened, like, are the gyms completely on separate sides of the world? And was there ever any truth to Danaher saying that their gym was stolen and this and that?
I don't really think that's the case. I mean, with So they're actually, so Austin is pretty big. I mean, I don't know, where are you from?
I'm from Virginia.
Virginia. Okay, so like, I mean, most cities, or I will say most like towns, right? Most towns, you drive like 10 minutes in one direction, you're out of the town. Even 10 minutes might be a lot, right? It's like in Austin, you're driving 45 minutes. Like, so I drive to get to my Muay Thai gym, Ambush Muay Thai, which is up north. I live South Austin. I have to drive 45 minutes, right? And I'm still in Austin. So it's a huge, it's a huge place. So I've never actually run into them, into like New Wave, besides somewhere where we'll both be like a WNO.
Yeah.
That's really the only time that I've ran into any of the guys. I've never seen them at like a Whole Foods or like anywhere. Granted, I don't do much. I train, I go home, I train again, I go home. There's really very very limited amount of places that I could even run into them with. But yeah, I've never ran into them. But as to go back to the stealing of the gym thing, I don't think that's true at all. So yeah, what had happened was Craig initially wanted to leave Puerto Rico. He hated Puerto Rico first, actually. So within 30 days, he hated it, right? So the first guy that never liked it. Then Seth was training with us. Seth is one of the co-owners of B Team right now. Seth actually had a gym, Gracie Humaita, that was located inside, where B Team is now. That's where it was, right? There was some partnership issues there. His gym, that guy ended up leaving. So basically, Seth had this turnkey operation where there was mats, wall mats, beautiful location, whatever. Everything was already done. He just needed a jiu-jitsu gym to go in there. So basically, he goes to Craig. And he's like, hey, Craig, because Seth and Craig were close, right? Or Seth just, felt closer to Craig. So, they were friends. And he's like, hey, I know you don't like Puerto Rico. If you want, why don't you just get out of here and then go to Austin? So then Craig brought it to, John and said, hey, John, like, Seth said that there's this operation that we can have, like, or that I can have. It's like, why don't we just all move out of Puerto Rico, because everybody's starting to not like it. That's basically what started to happen. And then, so John was like, oh, that's a good idea. And then basically, that there was like some division that was starting to happen, and there was like a conversation that had happened that didn't involve all the guys. I think it was more so between Gordon and John, where like the idea was that Gordon and John were going to open up the gym inside Seth's place, but then give it a year, they would open up a mega gym with all the the big athletes, because it was supposed to be like a gym between Gordon, John, Gary, Nicky Ryan, Nicky Rod, Craig Jones. It was supposed to be like a big operation, a big mega gym. And then I think Gordon and John were like, we're going to open up a temporary spot inside Seth's gym until we find a mega gym. And then Craig, really didn't like that. He was like, well, what are you talking about? Like, why would we do that? Why don't we just do the same thing that we were going to do before? There were some issues that were happening amongst other guys in the gym. So then the team started to split, right? So the split happened, and Seth was the one that brought it to Craig, right? Because it's Seth's gym. And Seth felt comfortable working with Craig. He doesn't really have that relationship with John and Gordon.
Yeah.
So then it just made sense for, if Craig wanted to open up the gym, that it went to Craig, because that's initially how it happened. It only, like, John and Gordon only had like kind of access to the gym because Craig had been was like, hey, we can get out of Austin. So I don't think it was a stealing thing. I mean, maybe they think of it like that, but I definitely don't think it was like something like that.
Yeah, Craig definitely had the original connection. I think it was ultimately just a way to get memed across the internet, which was hilarious and super on brand with B Team and everything that they do.
We were left with no gym. No gym.
We were going to find ways to win,
go, dogs.
I've seen a couple clips. I'm happy that you're happy at B Team, but I've seen a couple clips of Craig Jones just picking you up and dropping you on your head, and then he comments on pictures like, oh, he's the slowest guy ever. So do you ever feel like you're bullied by him and you need to get away, or is it always just good vibes?
No, bullied, no. The thing is Craig is a very insecure person, so I feel almost delighted, to help uplift him. His self-confidence is just so low. He has such like a bad receding hairline that he wears the hat all the time, So it's like, it's good that we need to allow him to feel better about himself,